Not everything goes as planned. Sometimes what we planned doesn't turn out to be what we expected. And sometimes it raises challenges that we haven't thought previously. Hello, I'm Miguel. Welcome to the second episode of the game design series of Checkpoint 19. The two clips shown previously were implementation failures due to game design decisions. Sometimes it may be tempting for us to adapt our game design because it is easier to implement in a certain way. The truth is, we should avoid to do that at all costs. We don't want to compromise our gameplay because it was easier for us to implement. Let me share those complications with you. So in the first clip we can see that cars were stacking. And cars were stacking because I wanted to make those vehicles individual agents that would make their own decisions based on what they knew about the world. And also I wanted to make them as simple as possible. So I made them detect obstacles that were a certain distance in front of them. But that simple implementation didn't quite work because if cars needed to change direction, they wouldn't detect the car that was on their side, and they started to stack, creating queues and deadlocking the traffic. So I had to tweak my implementation and to do extra work to fit my design needs. And actually, it turned out to be quite some work. My second implementation failure was when I wanted to make staff members reach the building they were assigned to by moving along with all the other vehicles. The thing that I didn't thought was if I didn't have any staff member assigned to the primary checkpoint, how could vehicles pass allowing my staff member to reach the building he was assigned to? Here is where I changed the implementation by redirecting the traffic, if there was no staff member assigned, to fulfill my game design decision of making the staff member passing along with the rest of the vehicles to reach the desired building. But what does these implementation failures have to do with not giving the player the full control? The thing is, if we want to reach certain game design goals, we have some options of implementation that we can follow. In this case, if I want the game unpredictability, I need agents to be able to make their own decisions and to have their own objectives. But why in this game don't I give the player the full control? Well, if I gave the player the full control, they wouldn't have to opt between security or throughput. They could maximize both and with the game unpredictability. Let's look into some excellent games that give the player the full control. In City Skylines, once the player understands the traffic flow, the zoning ratio, and the public transportation balance, traffic rarely collapses and the economy becomes extremely predictable. Furthermore, players can disable disasters, removing out of the equation the only thing that is really unpredictable. Another good example is the roller coaster tycoon. Once players know what is the best placing of each ride and the best pricing, money stops being a problem. So scaling becomes extremely easy. This doesn't make those bad games, but they illustrate a great design challenge, which is how do we keep the system alive once players understand it? How do we keep players engaged for an indefinite amount of time by creating the constant need of adaptation? I'm designing Checkpoint 19 so it isn't fully solvable. I want players to feel uncomfortable, but in a good way. Players should keep performing changes in their game session, adapting their setup, hiring, firing, reassigning stuff, and all of that because the game forces them to. The game context changes. And now, picking up the question from the last episode, how do we design a system that keeps pushing back, but without feeling unfair? We'll keep exploring this on the next episodes. If you like the game concept, wishlist it on Steam, and if you want to be part of the development process, check out our Kickstarter, both links in the description. Until the next episode.